This is Reading Explained, where I give you background information on the readings before you go to Mass on Sunday so you can better understand them when you're there. This week is the 33rd Sunday in Ordinary Time, and our first reading requires a little bit of an explanation. Number one, it's from the book of Proverbs. What's important to remember here is that there's an extra element of genius to this reading that literally gets lost in translation. What I mean by that is the reading we will hear will either be in English, maybe it'll be in Spanish if you're attending a Spanish Mass, maybe Latin if it's a Latin Mass, but the book of Proverbs was written in Hebrew. And the reason why that matters is because the reading on Sunday was originally written to be an acrostic poem, meaning that the first letter of each line follows the Hebrew alphabet. So the first line begins with the Hebrew letter Aleph. The second line or verse begins with the Hebrew letter Bet, and they continue all down the Hebrew alphabet until you get to the end. Now, this reading not only is in English, so our words are translated to different words that don't start with the same letters, so we don't see that level of genius there, but it's also being segmented and delivered in fragments. So there are different chunks of it that are being put together for this reading on Sunday. So you are not hearing the original acrostic poem in its entirety, but the value is still there. Number two, the reading itself is referring to the strong virtues of a woman. And there is a theory here, because if you remember last week when we were talking about the first reading from the Book of Wisdom, or the Wisdom of Solomon, we were talking about how it can be a little bit confusing because wisdom biblically was always referred to in a feminine sense with she, her pronouns. So sometimes it might sound like the Bible is talking about a woman, but it might actually be talking about wisdom itself. And last week's first reading was an example of that. So earlier in the book of Proverbs, there is discussion of Lady Wisdom. And Lady Wisdom is almost the image or the manifestation of God's involvement in the world. So there are some biblical scholars who have a theory that maybe this acrostic poem that we will hear is about what wisdom would be if it were an actual female, if it were a physical manifestation of wisdom itself. That's just a theory. It's never been proven, but it's something to think about. Now that you have that background information, here is the reading that you will actually hear on Sunday. A reading from the book of Proverbs. When one finds a worthy wife, her value is far beyond pearls. Her husband, entrusting his heart to her, has an unfailing prize. She brings him good and not evil all the days of her life. She obtains wool and flax and works with loving hands. She puts her hands to the distaff and her fingers ply the spindle. She reaches out her hands to the poor and extends her arms to the needy. Charm is deceptive and beauty fleeting. The woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her a reward for her labors and let her works praise her at the city gates. The word of the Lord. So hopefully that helps you to better understand this reading. If so, please share this video with someone else who may also find it to be helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to my page, follow me, like the video, comment on it, and come back as we break down more readings that you will hear at Mass on Sunday.